So why me on this topic of data? I really don't have anything to say. I just came here to see Spike Lee later. Seriously. Why me on this topic? I work for WPP, which is the largest marketing and communications group globally. And we are a holding company, and we house the variety of advertising, media planning, market research, marketing technology, and marketing specialist agencies that you see here. And within WPP, I work for a team called the Data Alliance. And we essentially are a unit that is dedicated to data strategy and data-related programs for WPP. And so I'm going to start with talking about this notion of big data, which I'm sure you've all heard about. It's this term that gets thrown around to talk about a variety of things. So for some people, big data refers to databases and technology. And for other people, it refers to analytics and the things that you can do with data. And for others, it refers to just the sheer mass volume of data that's available in our world today. And yes, big data encompasses all of these things, but truth be told, I think it's a phrase that ultimately creates confusion, and particularly for marketers, perhaps for some of you sitting in the room today, it can evoke a certain sense of anxiety. So let's forget about the hype around big data for just a second. Because for you, as marketers and storytellers, I would look at data as a nugget of truth, something that can inspire or substantiate a creative idea. And you put enough of those nuggets together, and you have the bones of a story that's worth telling. Data is also something that people want back in service to them. Google's business model is to organize the world's information. People want that. Amazon will look at items that you've purchased and will recommend other items that you might like. Facebook will detect people you might be friends with based on your social graph. These are all examples of data being fed back to people in a way that serves them. So you put that all together, and we see that data ultimately is a tool that can make advertising more relevant and compelling. And data isn't new to marketers. 75 years ago, Hollywood stars in the US fought to ban a predictive statistical technique that could estimate the success of new films before they were released. That technique was developed by David Ogilvy when he started using Gallup polls to research audiences and understand how films would perform at the box office. So what is new is what we call data horizontality within WPP. And horizontality is one of Martin Sorrell's favorite words. Martin Sorrell is the CEO of WPP. And he uses the word horizontality to talk about the collective strength of WPP agencies across the group. So in that same vein, when we talk about data horizontality, we're talking about leveraging data across the spectrum of marketing disciplines. And I'll bring that to life in the next couple of examples. Let's see here. There we go. And so another way to, another example, or another definition in terms of thinking about data horizontality is that it's the opportunity for data to thread together the storyline of marketing activities. And you can think of data as serving as that common thread in really two basic ways. The first is using the same data set for multiple purposes. So taking purchase data, for example, and using purchase data from key regions around the world to inform your communications planning, your media investment decisions, and also using purchase data to benchmark your research and your measurement, also to enhance your CRM strategies. And the same goes for mobile data and social data and so on. On the flip side, you can also use multiple data sets for a single purpose. And so at WPP, our focus is on taking the variety of data sources that are at our disposal in order to achieve a single customer view. So in other words, we're completing the picture of our client's target audience. And this includes utilizing data that we have in-house that's generated by WPP companies, as well as by making use of data that's made available to us from our clients, as well as data that we've secured by partnering with third-party non-WPP companies. But I'm going to go back to this idea of using the same data set for multiple purposes and talk about how WPP companies have been taking advantage of Facebook's topic data. And for those of you who aren't familiar with it, topic data is anonymous, aggregated content data about specific activities, events, brand names, and other subjects that people are sharing on Facebook. And WPP companies had early access to play around with this data on account of an agreement that my team put in place with Facebook. So it's a shameless plug for my team. I should jump here. So I'm going to start with Group M. And Group M is a network of media buying companies within WPP. It includes Mediacom, Mindshare, MEC, and a couple other agencies in different markets. And Group M used Facebook topic data to understand when people started talking about an upcoming film release from Universal Pictures. And what they found was that even though Universal's Facebook ad spend was concentrated in the 48 to 72-hour period before the film's release, the people who were talking about going to see the film started talking about it 3 weeks ahead of time. So there was a missed opportunity for Universal during that 3-week period. So in this case, it was lessons learned for the next time around. JWT also tapped into Facebook data on behalf of Royal Caribbean Cruise Lines. And they did this to understand the triggers and what motivates people to book a holiday. So they looked at what topics, whether it was family-friendly accommodations, entertainment and nightlife, pricing, and they looked to see which topics were being talked about amongst different demographics of people. Miller Brown, one of WPP's market research companies, used Facebook topic data to assess brand reputation and perceptions for a variety of brands by looking at the overall volume of conversations. So in other words, which brands were being talked about by more people. So again, we're talking about using the same data set, but just different use cases. Next, Burson Marsteller, one of our PR companies, they used Facebook topic data to assess the impact of a PR event that they executed for Ford around the launch of the Ford F-150 model. So this is an example from the States. The 150 hasn't landed here in South Africa just yet. But what Burson did is that they used the topic data to understand how links to reviews that had been generated by the PR event were being shared and talked about. So ultimately, they were able to establish an earned ROI for the PR campaign. And the last example here is from Hill & Knowlton, and they used Facebook topic data to understand attitudes being expressed towards the US mobile carrier AT&T compared to AT&T's competitors. So it helped them glean a competitive view. So again, what we just looked at is examples of multiple uses for the same source of data. And now we're going to look at the reverse. We're going to look at pooling multiple sources on behalf of a single client, more specifically creating a single customer view for Holiday Inn hotels. The first step was having Ogilvy develop brand messaging that would speak to Holiday Inn's bespoke target audience. Next, TNS, another one of our market research companies, identified consumers who were open to staying at a Holiday Inn. So they ran a research study in which they identified people who had not stayed before but were open to giving the brand a try. Next, Wonderman scaled that audience to an additional 15 million similar consumers. So what they did is they created a lookalike model where they were able to identify consumers who had the same characteristics as the consumers that TNS had identified. Furthermore, Wonderman has a clever way of mapping profile attributes to online cookies. Now, I don't have time to go into how all that works, but catch me afterwards, and I can tell you more about how that specific method works. But ultimately, Wonderman's output was a set of cookies that represented this target audience that fit Holiday Inn's spec and also represented people who were in market to stay at a Holiday Inn. So the next step was Mindshare, taking those 15 million unique cookies and adding them to the media plans, and so they purchased them using the preferred media buying platforms. And the last step involved Miller Brown. They tagged and measured the campaign and showed a 38% increase in brand consideration amongst the people who had been exposed to the campaign compared to an identical control group. So what you see with this example is how data has played a central role in threading together the execution of a campaign that ultimately delivered the right message to the right audience at the right time. So final thought, parting words, is that we're still experimenting. The industry is still testing, and we're figuring out when and how data can be most powerful. So I guess in some ways, the story around data is to be continued. Thank you.